Haunting whisper at midnight. Don't sign this. The Billionaire's epic fear revealed. It was a night like no other. The moon hung low, casting a ghostly glow over the desolate mansion where billionaire Carter Green lived. He had everything: money, power, respect, but something sinister lurked behind his success. When the clock struck midnight, a chilling whisper slithered through the cracks of the old walls. Don't sign this, it echoed again and again, as if warning him from an unseen threat. Anxiety gripped Carter's chest, a tightness he couldn't shake off. Everyone thought he was invincible, but deep down, he felt an ice-cold fear. Strange things surrounded this man. A portrait in the hallway had eyes that seemed to follow him. The shadows danced eerily in the corners of his huge living room. They whispered secrets he didn't want to hear. Every creak of the floorboards would send shivers down his spine. Was it haunted? Or was it just his guilt? As he gripped the old parchment in his hands, the ink glistened in the pale light. Words blurred together, forming a contract that could seal his fate. What kind of deal was he facing? His friends warned him, his enemies plotted against him, and yet here he stood, caught between two worlds: life and death. Beads of sweat dripped down his face as he remembered the man who handed him the contract earlier that day, a once trusted advisor turned bitter rival. That man's smile twisted with malice, and something darker, something otherworldly. Carter was convinced there was more behind that smile. But what? And why did it feel like walls were closing in? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The clock ticked menacingly as he stood at the crossroads of his life. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him like a heavy fog. Outside, a storm brewed, winds howling, and thunder rumbling like an angry beast. Even the lightning seemed to rip through the dark sky, illuminating the mansion with a sudden brightness, revealing shadows that danced menacingly across the walls. Memories flooded him, those he lost, the dreams he shattered, the whispered threats he ignored. What would he sacrifice for power? It wasn't just his life at stake. It was the lives of everyone he cared about. But deep inside, a voice begged him to run, to flee before it was too late. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging him into darkness. He could hear the whispers growing louder, colder. The fear clawed at his throat, leaving a lump that threatened to suffocate him. One moment of hesitation could lead to his downfall. As he stood there in frantic silence, the question loomed. Would he dare to sign? The silence felt deafening as the darkness wrapped around Carter like a heavy cloak. His heart raced, pounding in his ears louder than the storm outside. Shadows loomed like specters, curling and whispering threats of his impending doom. Time slowed, the air thick with fear and resignation. He felt his fingers tremble over the parchment, each breath wrapping him tighter in a web of dread. Suddenly, a loud crash of thunder shook the mansion, and in that moment of chaos, a flicker of doubt surged through him. What if this is the end? He thought, a chilling realization settling in. The contract needed his signature, his promise to give up something precious. But what exactly? He squeezed his eyes shut, as if that would block out the indecision gnawing at his insides. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw movement. A shadow moved with an unnatural grace, slipping through the dining room. He turned his head, forcing himself to confront the darkness. Is someone there? He called out, his voice trembling. The shadow froze, then darted behind a frosted window pane, leaving him with even more questions. The air felt different now, charged with a tension that made his skin crawl. Carter felt an urge to pursue the phantom figure, but a voice in his mind screamed for him to stay put, to protect what little sanity he had left. Instead, he took a deep breath and focused on the contract again. His decision was slipping through his fingers like sand. He needed clarity, anything that could direct him away from the abyss staring back at him. But deep inside, shadows of his past beckoned to him, in a swirl of memories. He recalled the laughter of his late wife, the joy of building their dream together, and the promises of a better tomorrow. The images ignited a flicker of hope, and for a brief moment, the weight on his chest lightened. But the memories twisted into nightmares, betrayals, threats, and those he lost in his ruthless ascent to power. Had he invited this curse onto himself? The shadows in the corners seemed to laugh now, mocking him, and he could almost hear their chorus whispering, "What have you done?" His throat tightened as he imagined the faces of everyone whose trust he had broken. Suddenly, a hand clutched his shoulder, icy and ghostly. He turned his head sharply, heart racing again, but found only emptiness. Panic surged within him. Was he losing his grip on reality? Or was this simply a man confronting the consequences of his actions? The storm outside intensified, rattling the windows, the howls of the wind sounding more like anguished calls. He gritted his teeth as he fought rising terror. This was no longer just about a contract or ambition. It was a battle for his very soul. The contract glimmered ominously in the darkness, urging him to make a choice. And the whispered warning echoed louder. Don't sign this, gathering his resolve. Carter reclaimed his focus. He had to find out what lay behind those shadows, behind the whispers, and confront whatever darkness had come to haunt him. He stepped toward the dining room, determined. As he reached for the doorknob, his heart pounded, each beat a tattoo of fear and anticipation. Then, just as his fingers brushed the cool metal, a sudden silence enveloped him. The storm outside paused, as if nature itself held its breath. What he found on the other side of that door would change everything. Would it be redemption or ruin? The tension hung thick in the air as he gripped the doorknob tighter. And with a quick twist, he flung the door open. The door swung wide with a creak that echoed like a scream through the stillness. Carter blinked, adjusting to the dim light flooding from the ornate chandelier above. The dining room lay before him, a place once filled with laughter and warmth, now a shell shrouded in shadows. Tables were set for a feast that had never happened. Candles were melted into grotesque shapes, remnants of long extinguished flames that whispered tales of a happier time. And at the far end of the table, a figure stood. Silver hair framed a gaunt face, a face he recognized. Heart racing, he squinted, disbelief turning to dread as his memories cascaded through him like a waterfall dragging him under. "Is it really you?" he breathed. The figure turned slowly, revealing eyes filled with sorrow and disappointment. "You shouldn't have come here, Carter." Every word felt like a knife. Sophia, the name slipped from his lips like a confession. Anguish twisted in his gut. This was wrong. She was gone. Yet here she stood, a haunting reflection of what he'd lost. "Your greed brought you here. You think this is a game?" Her voice trembled, breaking through the silence, resonating deep within his bones. "You signed a contract without the understanding of what it means. The cost is higher than you know." "What do you mean?" Panic rushed through him. I need to fix this. I thought you could help." The shadows twisted even more, curling around the edges of his vision like a living thing. The air thickened as if charged with electricity, and behind Sophia, a dark figure began to coalesce, its form undefined but filled with a palpable malice. "Carter," she whispered desperately. "It isn't just about you anymore. Those you hurt, they're not gone. They linger. They want retribution." His chest tightened at her words, memories flooding him, faces of those whose lives he'd ruined. The incredible weight of past choices hung heavy, like chains anchoring him to a dark fate. He stepped back, instinctively seeking to distance himself from the specter of his past. "No, it can't be true. They've come to collect, and you can't run anymore." Her eyes glistened, reflecting the tears of an unfulfilled life. "You have to face them. You have to face yourself." Something shifted behind her, and the shadow unfurled, a dark mass that sent chills through Carter's spine. It seemed to pulse and breathe, laughing silently at his struggle. The room twisted. The walls felt like they were closing in, a noose tightening around his resolve. "No," he shouted, stepping forward. "I can't let this happen. I won't let them take me." The apparition of Sophia reached for him. "This is only the beginning," she said, her voice a haunting echo now as the darkness surged. "There's a choice, Carter. A choice you cannot ignore." Jumbled images flashed in front of him, a specter of the wealth he had accumulated cut with images of despair, of trust betrayed. He needed to remember why he was here, why he had risked everything. Was it worth it? Did the gains outweigh the cost? The darkness inched closer, And as he backed away, splintered memories surged forward, fingers trembling. He dove for the contract, feeling the cold parchment against his skin. But as the whispers swirled around him, pressing him deeper into despair, he realized that every choice he made led him further into a trap he'd set for himself. Could he still change the outcome, or was it truly too late? Struggling against the tide of uncertainty, he clutched the contract to his chest, searching for the resolve to break free. As the shadow lunged, Carter felt a deep, primal fear rise within him. It was now or never. He had to take a stand against this swirling darkness or risk losing everything, even the memories that haunted him. Suddenly, from the corner of the room, a new light flickered, cutting through the chaos. It offered a glimpse of hope, illuminating a path obscured by shadows. What could it mean? Had he overlooked something crucial? Carter's breath quickened. There was one last chance to reclaim what he'd lost and turn the tide. Whatever lay ahead, he would have to face it head-on. Summoning every ounce of courage, he darted toward the light, unaware of the shadow's grasp creeping at his heels. Would this lead to salvation or damnation? As he reached for the unexpected break in darkness, a voice echoed in his mind, warning him one last time. Don't sign this. Would he dare to plunge deeper into the unknown, or retreat from the fears that had ridden him for so long? Carter lunged into the light, feeling it envelop him like a warm embrace. His heart pounded in his chest, the shadow at his back barely an echo now. For a fleeting moment, he felt liberated. This was his chance. But just as quickly, the light fluctuated, dimming as if flickering under a heavy weight. Carter! The desperate scream shattered the moment. Sophia's voice cut through his euphoria like a knife. It's not safe. You're not ready. Panic surged within him. The light began to swallow him whole, blinding and dazzling. Yet he sensed something lurking just outside its reach. Ready for what? He shouted, his voice trembling. What are you trying to hide? But there were no answers, only silence. The light flickered again, revealing glimpses of another world. A realm shadowed by sorrow and regret. Each figure he could barely make out twisted in agony. They seemed familiar, tainted by a pallor that resembled his own soul. Suddenly, the warmth turned cold. Hot breath raked at the back of his neck, a vile whisper threaded through the air. You cannot escape. The shadow had morphed, emerging from the darkness with a form now clearer than ever. It was a figure he recognized, one who had once placed trust in him. You thought you could just walk away? Time fell silent. Carter's pulse rattled against the stillness, recalling the smile and the trust he had shattered. I didn't want to hurt you. A bitter laugh echoed in reply, sharp as glass. Want? That's hardly the choice you made, was it? With every word, an unseen weight pressed down upon him. The contract felt hot in his hand, as if it pulsed with a life of its own, echoing the failure of his decisions. Please, I just need a chance to make things right. He begged, heart racing. I didn't see I was blind. You still are, the figure countered. The past isn't just haunting you. It's terrorizing everyone you've ever wronged. They want a reckoning. They deserve justice, Carter. The room began to spin, the shadows closing in tighter. He stumbled, heart pounding like a drum. You don't understand. I thought I could buy my way out. I thought you thought wrong. The figure's voice crescendoed, resonating with every painful truth Carter had ignored. Fractured memories washed over him like waves drowning a ship. Friends turned enemies. Promises burned in the fires of avarice and betrayal. Every mistake flared before him, illuminating the broken pieces of his life. Right before that shadow lunged toward him, its hunger palpable. Just then, the flickering light began to reshape, warping the room into different scenes. Moments of loss, laughter, betrayal, and dread intertwining like vines. And there, in the fractured light, stood Sophia, her haunted face morphing with every breath he took. Do you really think you can outrun the past? She asked softly, her voice a mere ghost of what it once was. You can't. It's part of you now. No, I can't be trapped here, he shouted, desperation clawing at him. I can change. I will change. But as he shouted those words, the darkness responded, laughing at his defiance, a chorus of lost voices rising from beneath. They seemed to mock him, echoing his failures. Carter took a step back, losing ground. I need to do something. The flickering light pulsed once more, revealing a glimmering object embedded among the shadows. It sparkled despite the looming dread. A key, perhaps? The possibility of a way out? Could this be the solution to redeeming his soul? Or was it yet another trap? He had to decide in this moment. The fate of his path hinged on his next move. Carter inhaled sharply, his breath worth more than any treasure. He knew he had to choose wisely, or risk losing more than just his life in this relentless void surrounding him. With the whispers of the past swirling thicker around him, he took a step towards the key, but was it truly what he thought? "What will you do, Carter?" The shadow taunted, its breath chilling against him. "You can still turn back, but the cost." And just as he watched it shimmer, clarity struck. What was he willing to sacrifice to escape this nightmare? The voice echoed once more, this time softer. "The choice is yours, but you might wish you hadn't made it." He hesitated, heart racing with fear. Would this be the moment that truly defined him? Or was it the moment that sealed his doom? As he reached for the key, a chill seeped into his bones, a lingering question that hung heavy in the air. What awaited him on the other side? Carter's fingers brushed against the cool surface of the key, an overwhelming mix of hope and dread flooding his senses. The whispers around him began to crescendo into a cacophony, each voice wrapped in a different hue of agony and betrayal. "You can't trust it," they cried out, bouncing off the walls like the shattering of glass. He flinched, pulling his hand back. Fear gripped his heart, an icy fist that squeezed tighter with every echo of his past mistakes. What if it's a trap? He thought, a lump forming in his throat. That simple question clawed at his mind, relentless, and it had no easy answer. The shadow shifted, its form swirling, growing larger, more imposing. A trap? Or a gateway to your salvation? It taunted, voice dripping with malice. Either way, you can't escape this fate without choosing. Desperation weighed heavily on him. He glanced back at Sophia, her silhouette wavering in the flickering light. "I want to leave you," he cried, but fear twisted his resolve. Would reaching for the key mean abandoning her? Or was embracing it the only way to free them both from this nightmare? Sophia's eyes reflected a mixture of horror and understanding. "Carter, you have to decide, but know this." Her voice turned somber. "Every choice has consequences. This key could bind you closer to the darkness or lead you to the light." The shadows pressed forward, whispering secrets that sent shivers down his spine. He could almost feel their breath on his neck, icy fingers clutching at his resolve. If he waited too long, he worried they would drag him back into the blackness he thought he had escaped. Taking a deep breath, Carter forced himself to reach for the key again. It seemed to pulse with an energy of its own, beckoning him closer. Just as his fingertips grazed its smooth surface, a piercing shriek split the air. "No, don't," Sophia cried, but it was too late. The moment his hand fully grasped the key, an eruption of light engulfed him. The world around him shifted violently, colors swirling into a whirlwind. Screams faded into silence, replaced by a deafening pulse, his heart racing, each beat echoing a looming truth. As the light receded, he found himself standing in a vast, desolate landscape. The sky overhead was a bruised shade of gray, swirling clouds casting foreboding shadows across the cracked earth. In the distance, he could make out figures moving erratically, their faces twisted in expressions of despair. "What just happened?" he mumbled, panic rising again. The key remained clutched tightly in his palm, radiating warmth against his skin. "Welcome to the realm of truth," a voice rang out, chilling him to the bone. A figure emerged from the shadows, a gaunt face with hollow eyes that held the weight of countless regrets. "You've crossed a threshold, Carter. Now you will face the consequences of your past." Carter's breath hitched. He recognized this figure too, well, his former business partner, Marcus, a man he had betrayed for a mere contract. "Marcus," he choked out, guilt crashing over him like waves against a cliff. "The choices you made have brought you to this place," Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. "You thought the key would save you? It's just a reminder of all you've lost. You've unleashed a reckoning upon yourself." Carter stumbled back, his heart racing. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I was desperate." "Desperation will lead you to ruin," Marcus hissed, stepping closer. "You must confront your deeds. Otherwise, they will consume you." As despair washed over Carter, he stared into the faces of those he had wronged, a haunting gallery of sorrow reflecting back at him. He felt the weight of their judgment, a heavy shroud that threatened to suffocate him. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe he couldn't escape the darkness within. I can change, Carter shouted, tears stinging his eyes. I will make it right. Can you? Marcus challenged, a sardonic smile twisting his lips. Then prove it. But know this. Time is not your ally. The shadows will close in, and they won't let you go until you confront the truth. With that, Marcus faded into the shadows, leaving Carter alone in a desolate wasteland filled with the echoes of his past. His breath quickened, and a sense of urgency gripped him. If he was to find redemption, he needed to confront his sins. But how could he do that when they haunted him every step of the way? He looked down at the key, held tightly in his fist. The path ahead seemed treacherous and fraught with terror. Yet deep inside, a fragile ember of hope flickered. Can I really change? He whispered to himself. The question cut through the silence like a blade, and as he took a hesitant step forward, a new sense of determination fueled him. What awaited him in this bleak horizon? Would he face the ghosts of his past, or would the darkness consume him whole? Time was ticking, and the shadows hungered for his next move. The true test lay ahead, and this was only the beginning. Carter took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders against the chill that wrapped around him. The desolate landscape stretched endlessly, cracked earth reflecting his own fractured spirit. A low, murmuring wind picked up, swirling dust around him, whispering the names of those he had wronged. Each name felt like a dagger, twisting in his gut. His heart thudded in his chest. What do I do? The key pulsed in his palm, warm and reassuring, yet simultaneously demanding. It held the weight of his past, the regrets that chained him. He knew he had to move forward, but where? Suddenly, a figure surged towards him from the horizon. It moved quickly, kicking up dust as it approached. Panic gripped him. Was it another ghost from his past, or something even worse? He steeled himself, ready to face yet another judgment. As the figure drew closer, he was shocked to see it was Sophia. Her eyes were wide with fear, tears glistening on her cheeks. Carter. Thank God, she gasped, the relief washing over her face like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Sophia? He stepped forward, the warmth of her presence igniting a flicker of hope inside him. How did you? I followed, she interrupted, glancing nervously around them. I felt something was wrong when you touched the key. Carter, we need to find a way out of here. This place is dangerous. He shook his head, anguish knotting his stomach. I can't leave. I have to face what I've done. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about you and everyone else I hurt. Her expression turned pleading. But Carter, you don't have to do this alone. We can face it together. No, he shouted, the words bursting from him like a dam breaking. You don't understand. I put you in danger the moment I let greed lead me to betray those I cared about. I have to confront them. I have to set this right. Sophia stepped back, sadness clouding her eyes, but an understanding lingered as well. Then let me help you. We can find out what we need to do. We can. Before she could finish, shadows slithered from the ground, tendrils curling around her feet like vipers ready to strike. Carter, help, she cried, panic flooding her voice. No. Adrenaline surged through him, shoving aside doubt. He lunged forward, grabbing Sophia's arm, desperate to pull her back. The shadows hissed, cold and malicious. Fleeing won't save you, Carter, they taunted, tightening their grip on both of them. Just like before, you've dragged her into your own darkness. Carter's breath hitched, and his mind raced. The memories flooded back, business meetings where he had sacrificed trust for profit, deals made in anger that had cost people everything. What if this is where it ends? He whispered in horror as the shadows continued to cling to them, encroaching, bringing despair with every passing second. But then, the warmth of the key in his hands surged again, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. He could feel the pull of all he had lost. It was time to change the narrative. I won't bow to this darkness. His voice rang out, more powerful than before. He raised the key high above his head, its light cutting through the shadows, illuminating the chaos around them. The tendrils recoiled as if burned, releasing their grip on Sophia. Carter, she gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief. We can turn this around, he yelled, newfound determination surging through him. Every moment leading to this felt like a chance to rewrite his wrongs. As the shadows retreated, Twisted faces emerged from the darkness, their anger palpable. "You cannot escape your choices, Carter," one growled, stepping forward, its voice echoing with the weight of judgment. Carter stood tall, heart racing. The road to redemption was frightening and paved with darkness, but he wouldn't let it consume him or Sophia. He turned to her, urgency driving his words. "We need to face them, their pain, our pain, together." But as they prepared to step forward, the ground trembled beneath them, and a deep rumble echoed from the clouds above. "You've awakened a storm," the shadows hissed, their voices uniting in a sinister harmony, "and it will demand everything." The clouds swirled down low, coiling around them like a serpent about to strike. What awaited them within this storm, and would courage be enough to fend off the shadows that threatened to engulf them again? Carter and Sophia faced the tumultuous sky, knowing with certainty that the real confrontation was just beginning. The storm crackled ominously above them, cloud tendrils lashing out like wild serpents. Carter's heart pounded as he gripped the key, the light a fragile flicker in the gathering darkness. Sophia clutched his arm, her face a mask of anxiety, painted with determination. "We can't back down," she urged, eyes resolute. "We have to confront whatever's coming." But just as the last word escaped her lips, the clouds opened, releasing a torrential downpour that soaked the ground beneath them. The wind whipped around them, howling like a banshee. The shadows seemed to grow even darker, swirling in a furious dance, mocking their resolve. "You cannot hide from what you are," they hissed, with a cacophony of twisted voices. Sophia staggered as a rush of cold water surged around her ankles, pulling her down. "Carter!" she shrieked, fear flooding her voice. He yanked her closer, fighting against the grasping shadows that continued their sinister assault. "Hold on." But the more they struggled, the tighter the shadows gripped them. Faces of the past materialized, drawn from the shadows where regret and despair lay entangled. There were the people he had deceived, the ones he had betrayed. Each face twisted in anger and hurt. Carter felt his chest tighten as their voices clamored in his mind. "You thought you could escape?" "No," he shouted, the sound swallowed by the storm. The key pulsed, its brightness struggling against the darkness. "We can change this," Carter cried out, hope igniting despite the chaos. "We have to face them." Sophia nodded, her fear morphing into fierce determination. They turned toward the swirling shadows, and in that moment, the figures formed into more than just illusions. They became anchors, drawing on the sorrow that lived in Carter's heart. "Look," Sophia pointed as a shimmer through the shadows caught his eye. He squinted, the shine growing brighter, pushing against the darkness. It was a doorway, an archway of light that appeared like a beacon of hope. "Over there," he yelled, urgency slicing through the air like the rain splattering to the ground. They began to run, dodging tendrils that lashed out, desperate to draw them back. As they neared the doorway, the shadows around them thrashed with violent fury. "You cannot escape this fate. Your past will swallow you whole," they shrieked, echoing discordantly through the storm. With every step, memories raced through Carter's mind: failure, loss, betrayal. But each painful reminiscence now fueled his determination. "I refuse to be bound by these mistakes," he shouted back, his voice ringing out clear against the cacophony. Finally, they reached the archway, the light too powerful to ignore. Sophia turned to him, her face illuminated by the glow. "Whatever happens, we face it together." With a firm nod, Carter stepped forward into the light, pulling Sophia along. An overwhelming sensation washed over them, a rush of warmth that filled him with purpose. But just as they crossed the threshold, the shadows howled in despair. "You think you can rewrite your fate? You will pay dearly for this choice." The wind whipped violently, attempting to drag them back into the darkness. Suddenly, the light split open, revealing glimpses of his past self, his ambition, his greed, and the pain he had caused. Each image blasted into his mind like a fiery arrow. "This is who you are," a deep, menacing voice echoed, reverberating through the light. Carter faltered for a moment, fear creeping in like vines around his heart. "No, that's not me anymore," he gasped, willpower struggling against the weight of his history. His resolve wavered, the portal flickered, threatening to close. The shadows swirled closer, their malicious laughter chilling him to the bone. Sophia squeezed his hand, grounding him. You can't let them win, Carter. In that moment, he realized something profound. Redemption wasn't just a destination. It was the courage to face who he had been and to stand firm against it. As he stepped deeper into the glow, ready to confront his past once and for all, the shadows erupted, twisting into a maelstrom that clawed for them in desperation. But where would this confrontation lead? And would either of them emerge unscathed from the violent clash of light and darkness? The brightness enveloped them, a blinding shield against the darkness that clung desperately to their heels. Carter felt a surge of warmth wash over him, yet the shadows were unyielding, writhing like snakes. They hissed, their voices echoing inside his head, a jarring symphony of accusations that pierced through the light. "You cannot escape your choices," a voice cried, reverberating around them. "This is where it ends." With every breath, the shadows ratcheted up their assault, pushing against his mind, clawing at his memories. "You left them behind. You left me." The visceral shout slithered through him, striking a chord deep within his soul. His mother's face filled his vision. The disappointment in her eyes pierced deeper than any blade. He turned to Sophia, who stood steadfast by his side, her face a mask of confidence but darkened by the weight of the moment. "Carter," she shouted over the tempest, "we have to confront what they throw at us. It's the only way." He inhaled sharply, clenching the key tightly in his fist. The light pulsed in response, a heartbeat in the chaos. "You're right. I can't let this hold me back." Determination surged, exploding through the traps of despair. But the shadows erupted in a chaos of laughter. "Fools! You cannot rewrite fate. Faces will haunt you until your last breath." Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked, splintering like brittle glass. With a deafening roar, a wave of darkness surged from beneath, cascading toward their feet. Carter stumbled, feeling the ice-cold tendrils wrap around his ankles. Panic surged as they pulled him down, back toward the dark chasm that opened like a ravenous mouth. "No," he yelled, pulling Sophia closer. "We can't be dragged back. We must stand together." They locked eyes, a silent promise exchanged. With renewed strength, he wrenched his foot free, drawing her sideways in a fierce sprint toward the flickering light. "Keep running." As they dashed ahead, the shadows rippled, morphing into tormented faces, screaming in agony, clawing desperately for escape. Each face was an echo of a life lost, a friendship shattered here, a family abandoned there. The weight on Carter's heart threatened to crush him, but he pressed on, pushing the guilt back with every thought of Sophia's unwavering presence. The blinding light ahead seemed to pulse with life. It flickered, sending ripples of hope through the darkness. Yet with each step, the shadows retaliated. "You are weak. Look what you've done." Carter wheeled around, defiance boiling in his veins. "That was not who I am. I will not let you define me." Suddenly, with a thunderous crash, a shadow lunged forward, tendrils stretching into jagged claws, grasping for his throat. Before Carter could react, it seized him, choking the air from his lungs. He struggled, flailing against the icy grasp, his heart racing as fear swirled like the tempest around him. Sophia roared in fury, breaking free from the grasp of another shadow. She lunged forward, casting the light of the key like a sword, slicing through the vaporous grip with a flash that lit the doppelganger's face for just a heartbeat. "Let him go!" she yelled fiercely. The shadow recoiled, pulling back in a shriek. Each scream fused with the howling wind, amplifying the chaos. But she held her ground, stepping boldly into the fray. "We are stronger together. We will face the truth, and you have no hold over us." Carter's throat burned, but her words burned brighter. He could feel the anchoring power of the key pulsating in his hand, a guiding light in the storm. He took a breath, deep and steady, and thrust it forward. "Enough!" he roared, letting the light radiate outward, pushing against the darkness enveloping them. And then everything shifted. The shadows quivered, as if they sensed the changing tide. Just as the glow expanded into a brilliant archway, threatening to obliterate the darkness altogether, the ground trembled again, and a deafening silence swallowed the chaos. "What now?" Sophia whispered, her voice laced with both fear and wonder as they stood at the threshold of redemption. The shadows, morphing in terror, coalesced into a single figure, his own reflection, but twisted and haunting. You think you can break free of despair? It spat, voice dripping with venom. With newfound resolve, Carter stepped forward. Yes, yes, I can. But the moment hung in the air, fraught with the weight of his decision, as he readied himself to confront the darkest corner of his heart. Would this startling encounter bring freedom, or would it seal their fates in darkness forever? Carter's heart thundered in his chest as he faced the twisted reflection. The figure loomed, dark and distorted, a mockery of the man he had fought to become. Each word that escaped its lips was a razor, cutting through Carter's resolve. Do you really think you can escape? You're nothing without your failures. Desperation clawed at him. He clenched the key tighter, the metal digging into his palm, as if it were the only thing tethering him to sanity. Sophia stood, a fierce flame against the encroaching darkness. You're not him, she shouted, her voice fierce and grounding. He may have fallen, but he can rise again. We're not bound by our past. Carter felt her words anchor him. He took another step forward, each footfall echoing with purpose. You are a lie, he shouted back, his voice unwavering. All you are is a part of me I refuse to accept. The reflection lurched, its face contorting into a snarl. Then face the truth. You are the shadow. All your choices have led you here. Look around you. And suddenly, the landscape shifted. The light began to dim, casting eerie shadows that stretched and twisted into nightmarish visages. Faces from his past rose from the darkness, old friends, lovers, and family, all circling him, accusing him with their silent screams. Each one held a fragment of his past, a choice he wished he could change. Guilt flooded him, making it hard to breathe. Carter. Sophia's voice sliced through the fog of despair, fierce and demanding. Fight back. You are more than your past. Remember what you've learned. The key is our light. The shadows coiled tighter, choking him not just physically but mentally. His mother's gaze flashed before him. You abandoned me, she whispered, disappointment wrapping around him like a vice. You could have saved us. No, he cried out, fighting both the shadows and the weight of the memories. I can't keep holding on to this. You think I wanted to lose you? I'm here now. I'm fighting. He stared down the twisted reflection, the struggling shadows of his past, and for the first time, something cracked within him. It was a flicker of realization. You are not in control of my destiny, he shouted, thrusting the key forward. What felt like a flood surged upward, a memory of laughter, warmth, the love that had once healed him. I am not defined by the darkness, he declared, letting the light pulse from the key. The shadows screeched, retreating under the radiant surge. They swirled and flicked like flames caught in the wind, the night screaming as it battled the light. Carter felt relief wash over him, a moment's breath of sweet air filling his lungs. They were winning. They had to be. But his triumph wavered as the twisted figure glared back, fists balled, eyes raging. You think this is over? You can't just wish me away. I am part of you. No, he replied, pain lacing every word. You're a reminder of what I've overcome. I will rise. We will rise. As he spoke, the archway of light expanded, filling the void with vibrant colors, illuminating the wreckage of shadows. A shattering sound split the air as the darkness slipped away, but the reflection stood firm, a looming specter not quite ready to fade. Carter, this isn't just about you. The choices ripple out, affecting everyone. Are you ready to face what the truth really is? Fear gripped him again, raw and primal. The shadows were not gone. They merely retreated. The haunting laughter echoed louder now, more insistent. Carter turned to Sophia, searching her eyes for answers amidst the chaos. But her expression mirrored his unease, and it set his heart racing again. What do we do next? He whispered. The light flickered, and for a moment, he felt the world shift again, the ground trembling beneath them. There was no time to bask in the relief. They were not out of danger yet. Believe, Sophia said softly, her hand gripping his. But also trust yourself. Before he could respond, the shadows writhed together violently, reshaping the landscape, igniting a pulse of darkness that threatened to swallow the light whole once more. Carter, the twisted reflection hissed, its voice now a low growl. Your reckoning is just beginning. And with that, the very ground they stood on began to fracture again. What lay ahead was unknown, but one thing remained certain. Their fight for redemption was far from over, and shadows still whispered dark secrets that needed to be unveiled. The shadows roared like a tempest, swirling wildly around Carter and Sophia as the ground split open beneath them. Splintered stones and twisted roots clawed upward, threatening to consume them whole. "No," Carter shouted, gripping Sophia's hand harder. "We won't let them take us down." The visions of his past darkened the edges of his mind, faces of betrayal, cries of anguish. They screamed out for justice, reminding him of everything he had sacrificed on the altar of ambition. But Sophia's presence anchored him. Her fierce determination ignited a fire in his gut. "Fight, Carter. You have the power to end this." Together, they charged at the dark reflection of his lost self, which stood taunting them, its visage writhing with contempt. Striding forward, Carter felt each step pull him closer to the truth he had long ignored. "You're not me. You are just my failures masquerading as my soul. I refuse to let you define me." The reflection faltered, the shadows coiling back as if wounded. "But I am you," it howled, voice echoing through the tumult. "No matter how far you run, the truth will remain." "No," Carter shouted defiantly. "The truth can also set me free." He held the key high, its light bursting forth in radiant waves, forcing back the shadows. The light flickered, growing stronger with each heartbeat. "Together," he cried, turning to Sophia, their hands clasped tight. "We face this together." She nodded, eyes gleaming with fierce resolve. "Let us do it." With their combined strength, they plunged into the radiant archway of light, feeling its warmth surge around them, pushing back the encroaching darkness. The cacophony of shadows screamed, their shrieks a desperate last stand against the onslaught. "You can't escape your choices," they yelled, their voices blending into a distorted chorus of rage. It felt deafening, but within that roar, a flicker of doubt crept into Carter's heart. Then something within him snapped. The guilt that had long weighed him down rose to the surface. "These voices are my past mistakes," he realized, and with newfound clarity, he shouted, "But they do not own me." Light erupted from the key, enveloping them in brilliance, a comforting cocoon against the shadows trying to engulf them. "Let the past be the past," he proclaimed as their combined will surged through the darkness like a spear. The shadows shrieked and writhed, unable to withstand the intensity of their unity. As the brightness swelled, Carter felt layers of regret peeling away. Each painful memory transformed into strength. Each lost chance became a pillar of resolve. With one final push, Carter and Sophia stepped deeper into the light and faced the twisted figure head-on. "This is not who I am anymore," he declared, eyes locked onto his reflection. Before him, the darkness shattered with a shattering sound like glass, scattering into the void. The figure produced a last, desperate grasp at what remained of its form, but the light surged, claiming victory. The storm retreated, replaced with a warmth that felt like hope blooming in his heart. The landscape shifted dramatically around them. Gone was the desolate wasteland, replaced by a lush garden of possibility. Sophia stood tall beside him, a smile breaking through the remnants of fear lingering in the air. "We did it," she whispered with awe, the garden's lush vibrancy reflecting their triumph over darkness. Just then, figures emerged from the shadows of the garden, those he had wronged, those he had lost. Memories materialized in front of him, filled with sorrow and, surprisingly, forgiveness. "Carter," a voice called. It was Marcus, his former partner, but this time, his gaze carried no malice, only understanding. "We're here to see how far you've come, to bear witness to your choices." Carter's heart swelled as a sense of warmth and acceptance enveloped him. "I'm so sorry," he began, but Marcus shook his head. "You've faced the truth now, and that's enough for now. Forgiveness takes time, but this is the beginning." As each soul embraced their own stories, Carter felt a shift toward redemption he could have never imagined. The key pulsed gently in his palm, not as a weapon, but a reminder of growth and the light they had fought to reclaim. With every step forward into the garden's embrace, he realized the battles he had waged across time and space were practical. They were not finished. They had merely begun writing the next chapter, one of healing, understanding, and the promise of brighter tomorrows. Carter turned to Sophia, tears in his eyes. "We can build something better. Together." She smiled, the warmth in her expression fading shadows that still lingered. Together, Carter. With that, hand in hand, they stepped forward into this new dawn, ready to embrace whatever came next, no longer haunted by the past, but hopeful for what the future held. Now, as our story finally comes to a close, I need your help to keep it alive. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any exclusive stories coming soon. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach the world with these tales. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic finale. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Your support is crucial. Show it and be part of this amazing community.